I was supposed to be in Philadelphia. That Friday morning, I kissed Kelly goodbye like always, suitcase in hand, still half asleep, still sipping from the same chipped mug she gave me on our 3rd anniversary. "Safe flight," she said, tying her robe and already reaching for her phone. "Text me when you land." I never got on the plane. An internal audit pulled the rug out from under the whole trip, budget freeze, travel restrictions, some C-suite reshuffling. I was already at the gate when I got the email. I stood there staring at it for a while, watching everyone else boarding their planes, and for some reason, I didn't feel like going home. I should have told her. That would have been normal. That would have been the husband thing to do. But a voice in the back of my head whispered, "Wait," because lately things had been off. Kelly and I had been married 5 years. We met through a mutual friend at a dinner party. One of those stories that sounds boring on paper but felt electric in real life. She was witty, sharp, and had this effortless energy that pulled people in. And for the longest time, I felt lucky just to orbit around her. But over the last few months, that orbit had shifted. She was still warm, still present, at least on the surface, but things didn't feel the same. The first crack was small. She started working from a co-working space. Said it helped her separate home and work energy. I didn't argue. I wanted her to have her own space, her own groove. But gradually, that space began to stretch between us. Her schedule became unpredictable. Her phone, once tossed face up on the couch, now lived either upside down or locked away entirely. Notifications stopped showing names, just vague app symbols. She was quieter at night, more distracted. Conversations felt like performances, as if she were trying to hit certain beats but missed the tone entirely. When I'd ask how her day was, she'd give me a curated version. Bright, cheerful, but hollow. So when the trip got canceled, and I stood at that terminal with nowhere to be, I didn't go home. I drove across town to her co-working space. It was the middle of the morning, still early enough for the caffeine buzz to be kicking in. The building was one of those trendy converted warehouses. Brick walls, huge windows, minimalist decor trying too hard to be humble. I'd been there once when she first signed up, back when she was excited about the community vibe. I walked in through the side entrance, the one that led into the lounge and kitchen area. No one stopped me. I guess I looked enough like I belonged. People were chatting, typing, sipping overpriced pour-over coffees. And there she was. She was standing near the tall bar tables by the windows, holding a lavender iced latte, laughing too loudly. Her outfit stopped me cold. Bright canary yellow, something bold and new, paired with gold hoops and perfect makeup. Her hair was styled in that soft wave she usually saved for weddings or parties. And she wasn't alone. There was a guy standing close, like too close. Early 30s maybe, effortlessly put together, that business casual confidence that always made me feel like I should have shaved closer. He had one hand casually braced on the table, the other holding his phone, angled toward her. They were clearly sharing something. A joke, a meme, something light. But her body language was familiar in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. And then she saw me. Her eyes flicked across the room, caught mine, and didn't widen, didn't light up, didn't smile. She paused, blinked, then turned her head slowly back to him, nodding at whatever he just said like I hadn't just walked into the room. I froze. I wasn't expecting fireworks or public affection, but the sheer neutrality of her response punched the air out of my lungs. I stood there like an idiot for a second, unsure whether to walk over or walk away. I took a deep breath and crossed toward the espresso machine, pretending like I was a member, like I belonged. But I couldn't stop watching them from the corner of my eye. Every now and then, she'd glance over again, then immediately look away. She knew I was there. When lunch hour came, people started shuffling around, grabbing their things, making small talk about meeting spots. I lingered nearby, waiting to see what she'd do. She walked right past me. No, hey, what are you doing here? No, weren't you flying out? Nothing. She walked out of the main room with the guy. They disappeared through the glass doors into the hallway. For a second, I considered following them, but something in me said don't give her the power. I turned and walked toward the exit. I made it maybe 20 feet before I heard hurried footsteps behind me. Dan, wait! I didn't stop. I didn't even look back. I kept walking. I didn't trust what I'd say if I did. Later that day, my phone buzzed. One text from her. I was going to call you. Something weird happened today. Can we talk? I didn't reply. I didn't even open it right away. By the time I got home, she was already there. Sitting on the couch, hair now pulled up, face washed, wearing an old hoodie like nothing had happened. She acted completely normal. Asked how Philly was. Told me some vague story about a colleague giving her a ride to a friend's place during lunch, and that I must have misread the situation at the co-working spot. Said the guy, his name was Miles, was just a new business partner she'd started working with on some branding project. We were just trying to avoid office gossip, she said, like it explained everything. And maybe that excuse would have worked a month ago. Maybe I would have nodded and believed her. But not after today. There was a smell on her coat. Cologne I didn't recognize, earthy, sharp, definitely not mine. When I went to the kitchen for water, her phone vibrated on the table. I glanced down. Miles. No last name, just the name. She picked it up before I could say anything, laughing. It's nothing work-related. He's just dramatic. I nodded. But inside, something heavy settled in my gut. That night, as she slept, I sat in the living room, lights off, staring at the ceiling fan turning above me, wondering how I got here, wondering if she had any idea how obvious she was being, wondering if this was just the beginning, or if I'd been too blind to see how far down the path we already were. I didn't sleep, and for the first time in our marriage, I didn't want to. I didn't text her the next morning, didn't call, didn't even open the messages she left overnight. There were 3 of them, short ones, each a little more nervous than the last. Hey, I didn't mean to catch you off guard yesterday. Can we talk? Please. I love you. I don't want you to think anything weird is going on. But that's exactly what I thought. Actually, it was what I knew. Something was going on, and I could feel it in my bones. And what K** led me most was how calm she looked. How easy it was for her to act like the day before had never happened. When I walked through the front door after work, she was in the kitchen, humming softly, stirring a pan of pasta sauce like nothing had changed. Hey babe, she said, bright as ever. I wasn't sure when you'd be back, but I made your favorite. I gave her a long look. She met my eyes, just for a second, and then smiled. Too wide, too polite. And that's when I realized something. She thought I was going to let it slide. She thought I'd see dinner on the stove, and my suspicion would dissolve in steam and Parmesan cheese. And that terrified me. Later that night, as we were brushing our teeth, she casually dropped his name again, like she was testing the waters. Miles and I are trying to pitch this new concept to that sustainable skincare startup I told you about. He's got amazing connections in that world. Might mean I'm traveling a bit more soon, though. Is that okay? I didn't answer right away. She glanced over at me. Dan? Yeah, I said flatly, spitting out toothpaste. Just surprised how close you two got so fast. She paused just a fraction of a second, then laughed. We've barely even hung out, she said, waving it off. It's all business. Except I already knew that wasn't true. I started watching. Not snooping, just watching. The way she kept her phone under a pillow now when she was on the couch. How her screen dimmed faster than it used to. How she'd disappear into the bathroom for 30-minute showers with her phone always just out of reach. One night, I walked in from work early, and she didn't hear the door open. She was sitting on the couch, feet up, phone angled low. I didn't mean to sneak, but I caught a glimpse of her screen. It was a text thread. The name at the top was Miles. The last thing I saw before she locked the screen? A heart emoji. She looked up when she heard me behind her, visibly startled. Oh hey, I didn't hear you come in. I didn't mention the phone. Just nodded and kissed her on the head. Long day, but after that, something in me snapped awake. A few days later, I remembered something. We still had a shared cloud account. We used it to back up photos, vacations, holidays, anniversary trips. She hadn't used it in a while, but out of curiosity, I logged in. I wasn't even sure why. I just needed something. Anything. And there it was. New uploads. 3 photos, time-stamped from last weekend, when she told me she was visiting her cousin in Chicago. The first was harmless. A skyline sh*t from her hotel window. Fine. The second? Not so harmless. Kelly, standing in front of a boutique hotel in downtown Chicago, wearing the same pale blue sweater I gave her for our last anniversary. A gift she said was too sentimental to wear often. And next to her, Miles, arms wrapped casually around her shoulders, both of them smiling, like a couple, like a real, actual couple. The third photo, taken seconds later, he kissed her on the cheek. I stared at the screen for a long time, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it was pressing into my throat. That hotel? The one in the background? It was the same one we stayed at on our honeymoon. That wasn't coincidence. That was planned. Calculated. There was no ambiguity now. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. She hadn't just drifted away. She had replaced me. I don't know how long I stared at that photo. Kelly in our anniversary sweater, standing under that familiar gold-trimmed awning, grinning like someone who hadn't just thrown a decade of history in the trash. Miles holding her like he'd always been there, like I never was. What made it worse was how effortlessly happy they looked. Not guilty, not secretive, just comfortable. And that cut deeper than anything, because it told me this wasn't some heat-of-the-moment mistake. This was established, lived in, real. She wore that sweater. She took him to our hotel. I couldn't shake that. I closed the laptop, sat back on the couch, and tried to breathe. But it felt like the air was made of sand. Dry. Suffocating. My first instinct was to storm into the bedroom and confront her right there and then. But I stopped myself. She was asleep upstairs. Peacefully, no doubt. I'd have to live with this moment alone, at least for the night. Because whatever came next, I needed to be sure. I needed more than just a photo. I needed her own words. Her story, if she'd even give me one. So I waited. And I planned. The next morning, she made me coffee. Like nothing was wrong. She kissed my cheek and said she had some work stuff and might be late getting home. I just nodded. Sure. Take your time. She smiled like we were fine. And I played along. But as soon as she left, I got to work. I started with her calendar. The one she synced to our shared account ages ago and forgot about. She hadn't updated it in months, but old patterns told stories. There were multiple weekends she'd marked as wellness retreat or client strategy intensive over the past 2 months, each one overlapping with a credit card charge at a hotel or boutique spa. One of the charges was at the same Chicago hotel from the picture. I checked our shared Google Maps history. Turns out she hadn't disabled location sharing. Not only had she been at that hotel for a full weekend, but she'd also visited a place called Maison Mara the night before. A tiny French bistro. That name sounded familiar. It hit me. She'd brought it up once when we were planning our last anniversary dinner. Said it was too expensive for just the 2 of us. But apparently it was perfect for her and Miles. I was spiraling now. Not emotionally, strategically. I combed through our photo backups. Her phone had uploaded more than just the Chicago sh*ts. There was a mirror selfie of her in a hotel room I didn't recognize. Mismatched pillows, that odd emerald headboard, robe slipping off her shoulder. You could barely see him, but there was a reflection of a man's legs, suit pants, on the other side of the bed. And her caption, buried in metadata? Feeling like myself again. That's when the hurt turned to something else. Something colder. Resolve. I wasn't sure what to do with the evidence at first. But part of me didn't want to carry the weight alone. So I started with Laura, Kelly's sister. She and I were never super close, but we respected each other. She always saw through people, including her own family. And we'd had a few heart-to-hearts over the years, mostly about Kelly's tendency to rewrite reality when it suited her. I sent her the photos. Just that. No message. 15 minutes later, she called me. No hello. Just, Dan. She's done this before. Silence on my end. She did this with Scott, Laura said, her voice low. Before you 2 got married. She was seeing someone else for a few months. Said she needed to feel alive again. Same wording, same pattern. And she always picked someone safe. Someone she could control the narrative with. My throat tightened. She told me it would be different with you, she added. She said you were solid, grounded, that you made her want to be better. Yeah, I said bitterly. Guess that wore off. Laura sighed. I'm sorry, Dan. I really am. I thanked her and hung up. But I wasn't done. Next, I sent the same file, photos, metadata timestamps, travel overlaps to Kelly's parents. And to our mutual friend, Trevor. He was always the neutral guy in the group, the one Kelly tried to keep on her side. I didn't want allies. I just wanted truth in the open. Trevor texted back almost immediately. Holy sh*T. Now it makes sense. She's been setting this up for weeks. Her dad called me that evening. Not to defend her. Not to yell. Just to say, we didn't raise her to treat people this way. We'll speak to her. That one hit weird. I wasn't sure what kind of speaking would fix this, but I appreciated the gesture. And maybe most telling of all, Kelly didn't mention any of them. Not Laura. Not her parents. Not Trevor. Either she hadn't spoken to them, or she already knew what they thought. I decided to give her one last out. Not forgiveness, just clarity. We had dinner that night. She was unusually quiet. Wore one of her apology dresses, as I used to call them. Those outfits she pulled out when she wanted something to go her way. I could tell she sensed something was shifting. Halfway through the meal, I said it casually, "You ever been to Maison Mara?" She froze, fork halfway to her mouth. What? That French place in Chicago. The one you said was too expensive." "Oh, yeah. I think Miles mentioned it once." I nodded slowly. "He likes boutique hotels too?" Her eyes widened for a split second. Just one. But it was all I needed. Then came the scramble. "You went through my stuff?" "Nope," I said, wiping my mouth. "You left it all in the cloud. You gave me everything I needed." She didn't deny it. Didn't even defend it. Instead, she sat back and said, "So what now?" And that told me everything. She wasn't sorry. She was just calculating the fallout. I used to think cheating was something you kept secret because of guilt. But after that night, sitting across from Kelly while she picked at her food like a woman negotiating terms, I realized something worse. She wasn't hiding this because she felt bad. She was hiding it because she didn't want to ruin the image. Not of us, but of her. She had always been good at shaping narratives. People liked her. They listened when she spoke. She had this way of weaving honesty into half-truths that made everything sound reasonable, even when it wasn't. She didn't lie by omission. She lied by intention. Just enough silence to protect her version of the story. But I was done playing quiet. I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity. For everyone. The next morning, I sent the file to a few key people. Not on impulse, but after hours of pacing the kitchen floor, wondering what came next, how this ends, what I'd regret later. It wasn't petty. It was deliberate. First, I followed up with Laura. I sent her a full folder, **TS, metadata, dates, calendar overlaps. A note at the bottom that said, "You were right. I just wish I had listened sooner." She called 20 minutes later. No greeting. Just, she planned it. I didn't say anything. She told me she was working with this new guy, Miles, about 3 months ago. Said he was a creative genius. But she was always complaining about how he didn't respect boundaries. I think that was her soft launch. So that when it got exposed, she could frame it like it just happened after months of tension. "And did it?" I asked. Laura's voice was flat. She slept with him after their second out-of-town pitch meeting. I know because she borrowed one of my coats that weekend. And when she returned it, it reeked of men's cologne and hotel laundry. "Why didn't you say anything?" I thought maybe I was being dramatic. I didn't have proof. And honestly, I thought maybe you knew and were just ignoring it. I let out a bitter laugh. "Yeah, I ignored a lot." She paused. "Are you okay?" "No," I said, "but I will be." Next, I sent the folder to Kelly's parents. I didn't know what to expect. They'd always been polite, even warm. Her dad had once pulled me aside and thanked me for making Kelly feel safe again. After a rough patch she went through before we met. He responded the same evening. Called me from his office line. He always called from landlines like smartphones were part of some elaborate privacy conspiracy. Dan, he said, voice low, serious. I don't have the words. You don't have to, I replied. I just didn't want you hearing some polished version 2 months from now when everything's already spun. He sighed. She's been distant with us lately. We chalked it up to stress. But now it all makes sense. This Miles guy, he ever reach out to you? I blinked. No. Why? He friended us on Facebook a month ago. We didn't think anything of it. Now I feel sick. The last person I sent the file to was Trevor. He was one of our closest mutual friends. The kind of guy who didn't pick sides unless you really gave him a reason. But I knew he'd seen things, heard things, and I needed to know how deep this went. He replied with a single text. Now it makes sense. She'd been setting this up for weeks. I asked what he meant. The thing at Sarah's birthday dinner. She kept trying to get me to talk about your schedule. Asked when you'd be in Philly next. Thought she was planning a surprise trip or something. Jesus, man. Also, I'm sorry I didn't say something. I just thought maybe she was, I don't know, lost. I didn't think it would go this far. None of us did. That night, Kelly came home and found me sitting at the dining room table. You told them? She asked, voice already sharp. I did. She set her bag down. Sat across from me like this was a job interview. No emotion, just strategy. You really think that helps anything? No, I said. But at least now they know who they're dealing with. She exhaled hard. You just turned our personal life into a public drama. I leaned forward. You turned it into a lie. I just opened the window. She stood up, crossed her arms, pacing. What exactly do you want from me? An apology? A confession? Because if you think dragging my name through our friends and family is going to make this better. I cut her off. No, I want nothing from you. You made your choice. Now everyone else gets to make theirs with the truth. The fallout was swift. By the end of the week, her yoga studio quietly unfollowed her on social media. 2 people she used to mentor emailed me, not her, asking if the rumors were true. They'd seen the picture, the sweater, the hotel. They didn't even know Miles, but they knew what the look on her face meant. Kelly tried to get ahead of it. She posted a long, flowery caption on Instagram a few days later. A vague image of a sunset, a cup of tea, and the words, healing isn't linear underneath it. The caption read like a breakup manifesto. Sometimes people grow apart. Sometimes love evolves into something unrecognizable. This season is about growth, forgiveness, and rediscovery. Please respect our privacy during this difficult time. Love to everyone who's supported me. I read it once. Then I opened our shared album and found an old video. One she had filmed herself, during a tipsy dinner with friends 2 years back. I remember it because she made me promise never to post it. She was laughing, holding a glass of wine, and someone off camera had asked, "What would you do if you ever left Dan?" And her response, "If I ever leave Dan, I'll do it so slick no one finds out what really happened. I'll be rebranded before the ink's dry." I clipped just that part, posted it in response to her Instagram story with no caption. It was gone in under an hour. Her entire account deactivated shortly after. I've never seen someone lose control so gracefully. At first glance, Kelly made it look like she was steering the ship. Her carefully worded healing and growth post was just vague enough to generate sympathy and just poetic enough to dodge accountability. It worked for about 12 hours. Then the messages started coming in. From people I didn't expect. Some from her old classmates. Others from her colleagues. Even a woman I barely remembered from our wedding RSVP list messaged me saying, "Dan, this can't be real, right?" But it was. The truth had legs. And they were sprinting. People started connecting dots she didn't think they'd notice. One of her former design partners tagged me in an old group photo from a work trip last year. "Didn't realize now what I was witnessing back then," she wrote. "Sorry, man. Should have said something." Her curated world started cracking. She couldn't control the narrative anymore. Her attempt at vague mysticism, words like growth, separation, different journeys, couldn't compete with one undeniable thing: the truth. That video I posted of her laughing 2 years ago, the one where she smugly joked about doing a breakup so slick no one would know what really happened, hit harder than I expected. Not because it was scandalous, but because it was real. Her voice, her face, the casual cruelty wrapped in charm. It said everything her flowery captions tried to hide. And once that mask slipped, the unraveling accelerated. Her Instagram vanished within the hour. No taking a break from social. No explanation. Just gone. Her LinkedIn was next. Then Twitter. Then even her blog, the one she used to post polished thoughts about mindfulness and ambition and designing your own truth. All gone. What came next was the slow, awkward echo of people responding to her silence. The messages turned from sympathy to confusion. From confusion to distance. People who had once reposted her quotes stopped mentioning her altogether. Her usual inspirational girl boss group chat, a space she once bragged about, apparently split in half. One of the women, who used to send us holiday cookies every year, messaged me privately. She tried to make it sound mutual, but I knew something was off. She said you were emotionally unavailable. But then someone showed me the hotel pic. Another. She said you were stuck, that you didn't want her to evolve. But she didn't mention the other guy. Even her yoga instructor, yes, the one she talked about like a spiritual advisor, sent me a message. She's going through something. But this isn't it. This isn't transformation. This is avoidance. And I didn't even respond to half of them. Not out of spite, just exhaustion. I didn't want to spend every hour validating the fact that I'd been betrayed. But I'll be honest, it felt good to watch the house of cards she built tip sideways. Then came the spin. She reached out. Not to apologize. Not yet. But to reposition. Can we meet for coffee? Just talk. I agreed. Not because I wanted to hear her out, but because I wanted to see if she'd actually try to salvage anything with the truth. We met at the small cafe down the street from where we used to live. Neutral ground. She showed up 15 minutes late, dressed sharp. Not like someone crushed by shame, but like someone trying to win a meeting. She brought a notepad. Seriously, a notepad. Sat down and said, I just want to walk you through where my head's been. If you'll let me. I leaned back, crossed my arms. Go ahead. She flipped it open like it was a marketing presentation. I started feeling stuck in November. I know I didn't communicate that well. I think part of me resented the stability because I didn't know how to sit still. That's not on you, that's on me. I wasn't honest. She had bullet points. Bullet points. Dan, I never stopped loving you. I just lost myself. And Miles, he didn't pull me away. I drifted. That word again. Drifted. She kept saying it like it was something passive. Like she had in the boat, no engine, no map. I let her talk for 7 minutes. I counted. Then I cut in. You didn't drift, I said quietly. You replaced me. You replaced the life we built with a prettier version that didn't include me. Just admit that. She looked stunned. Not because she disagreed, but because I'd said it so plainly. I don't hate you, I added. I just don't believe you anymore. There was a pause. And then, for the first time in weeks, she didn't spin anything. She just sat there, mouth half open, hands frozen over her notes. Then she reached into her bag and handed me an envelope. Letters, she said. Ones I wrote. I didn't send them because I wasn't ready. But maybe they'll mean something. I took the envelope, stared at it for a beat. Thanks, I said. I never opened it. 2 days later, we had our first mediation meeting. It was exactly what I expected. Cold, clean, and painfully polite. She arrived in heels and a blazer, holding a leather folder. I could tell she had rehearsed what to say. Phrases like diverging timelines and shared values, different paths. She was trying to sell a story where no one was the villain. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't match her script. I kept it short. She didn't drift, I said, turning toward the mediator. She left. And she didn't leave because we were broken. She left because she wanted a different life. One where I didn't exist. There was no argument. No rebuttal. She just looked down. We signed everything that day. Not the final docs yet, but enough to separate bank accounts, formalize the house split, lay the groundwork. She asked if we could keep the car under both names. I said no. It was petty, but I needed one win. That night, I stared at the envelope again, the one filled with her unwritten apologies. I thought about opening it. Then I thought about her in that blue anniversary sweater, laughing outside the hotel, wrapped in someone else's arms. And I slid it into a drawer I haven't opened since. Kelly showed up to the final mediation looking like she was walking into a TED Talk. Tailored blazer, minimal jewelry, a neutral smile that said I'm fine. She used words like emotional realignment and personal transformation. Like this was some business pivot, not a betrayal. When it was my turn, I skipped the script. I said, she didn't grow apart. She grew a new life and edited me out of it. The lawyer nodded. Papers were signed. At the end, she handed me another envelope. For closure, she said. I didn't open this one either. I already had mine. I moved into a small loft outside the city. First nights were weird, quiet, too clean. I'd still catch myself reaching for her mug or checking my phone for texts that would never come. But slowly, the silence stopped feeling like punishment. Felt like peace. I started seeing old friends again. Started therapy. Let myself be angry. Then let myself let it go. A month later, she sent a final message. I'm sorry. I stared at it, then archived the thread. Apologies after exposure aren't real. They're damage control. I wasn't interested. I was already gone.